Bhagavad Gita as it is, Chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute. In this chapter there are 30 verses. The first 3 verses concern knowing Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." This verse picks up from the end of chapter 6. Krishna explained the Bhakti Yogi was the topmost. Now he continues on this theme, full consciousness of Krishna, the Supreme Person. And he says, with mind attached to me, that indicates love. You cannot be attached to something or someone unless there is some love. And he says, you can know me in full. Knowing Krishna in full means understanding Krishna in his 3 features as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Knowing Krishna in full, not even Krishna himself knows himself in full, because he's always expanding, always increasing. But at least we can know Krishna fully in his 3 features, especially his ultimate feature as Bhagavan, the Supreme Person. And free from doubt. We're always doubtful whether or not Krishna is the Supreme. But when you practice Bhakti Yoga, you'll not have any doubts that Krishna is God. Now I shall declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So there are 2 types of knowledge. There's knowledge of this material world and knowledge of the spiritual world, the transcendence. Krishna is going to explain to Arjuna both. And he's saying, Arjuna, after I explain this to you, there's nothing else you'll need to know. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So first, most people, they're not interested in perfection. What is perfection? To understand who one is eternally, self-realization, to know that I am eternal soul, part and parcel of Krishna. Hardly, we find very few people actually interested in self-realization. And then, of those persons who have gotten the result of being self-realized, Krishna is saying, even amongst those you may find one person who knows me, Krishna. So the person who knows Krishna, such a person is very, very rare. Now in verses 4 through 6, Krishna will explain the 2 energies. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So these are the 8 energies, material energies. Some are gross, some are subtle. Earth, water, fire, air, these are the gross material energies. Then he said mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are the subtle material energies. And they're separated. They're distinct and separated from Krishna. These are his external material energies. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting or utilizing the resources of this material inferior nature. So these 2 verses work together. He explained the material separated energies, and then he said, but there's another, the superior energy, the living entity. That's you. You may be situated in a material body, but Krishna is saying you are his superior energy, spiritual. And, as he nicely said here, you're either exploiting or utilizing the material energy. The material energy cannot work independent. It needs the superior energy to manipulate it. So why did he say exploiting or utilizing? Those who are not devotees, those who are not godly, they are taking this material energy of Krishna and using it for their own selfish purposes. And that's why we have so many conflicts and wars in the world today. Because one group of people or one nation is trying to exploit the resources of this material world for themselves. But then the devotee, he utilizes the material energy. There's a difference, exploitation and utilization. The devotee, the servant of God, he says, this energy, this material energy comes from God. I should use it for his purpose, for his service. The non-devotee says, no, it's for my purpose. So one is exploiting Krishna's energy, and the other is utilizing Krishna's energy. But it's still Krishna's energy. All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and dissolution. So here Krishna is explaining his complete superiority over everything. This is why he is the supreme God. He is saying everything is simply matter and spirit in combination. But he is both the origin and dissolution. Nothing is independent from Krishna. Now in verses 7 through 11, Krishna will explain a concept known as pearls strung on a thread. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Here is a very clear statement. Krishna is claiming he is supreme. No truth superior to me. Krishna here is stating very emphatically, I am God. I am the supreme, and nothing is above me. And then he said, everything rests upon me as pearls strung on a thread. You all know, you ladies, if you have a pearl necklace, all of those pearls are separate, but because of the thread, it all stays together. As soon as you cut the thread, the pearls will spill on the floor. In the same way, Krishna is sustaining everything, the material and spiritual creations. Without Krishna, nothing can stand. Our existence is relative to Krishna. If Krishna decided to no longer sustain us, we would cease to exist. But don't worry, Krishna wants us to exist, and therefore he sustains us. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Here Krishna is beginning to state his vibhutis, his specific powers by which you can appreciate his presence in this cosmic manifestation. The taste of water. Nothing satisfies our thirst like water. Why? Because Krishna has placed a particle of his potency in water. The light of the sun and the moon. We need the sunlight to exist. We need the sun to grow our crops. Research has shown, where do we find high suicide rates? It's in those countries where the sun is not shining very brightly. There are places where it rains too much. They don't get enough sunlight. High suicide rate. And there are places in Europe where the sun is not visible for 6 months out of the year. High suicide rates. So we need the sun just to exist. And that sun is getting its energy from Krishna. The moon. And in India, on a hot summer's day when the moon comes out at night, it is very refreshing. That is coming from Krishna's energy. The syllable Om, every Vedic mantra begins with the syllable Om. Krishna will explain Om later on in Bhagavad Gita. I am the sound in ether. The music industry around the world is a billion-dollar industry. Where does that potency for music, the sound, come from? It's coming from Krishna. An ability in man. Man is so arrogant that man thinks, I have done this, I'm able to do this. But that ability is coming from Krishna. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Krishna is pointing out all these different special features of existence. It's coming from his potency. Know that I am the original seed of all existences, and the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. This must be understood. Krishna is saying, I am that sex which is not contrary to religious scriptures. He's not saying that I am any kind of sex. It has to be sex which is sanctioned by Krishna, by the scriptures. And the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. Yes, there needs to be the enforcers of the law, but they cannot use their aggression indiscriminately. It has to be devoid of passion and desire. They too have to be under the law of God. Arjuna is going to use his strength to fight this battle of Kurukshetra, but it's going to be under the direction of Krishna, not by his own whim and not by his own desire. Now in verses 12 through 14, Krishna explains the insurmountable material energy. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So, Krishna is above the modes, and he is their controller. We, living beings in a conditioned state, we are under the control of the modes of material nature. But Krishna is not under their control. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Again, he's pointing out his unique position as the supreme controller. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. This verse is so important in Bhagavad Gita. First thing Krishna is saying, that this material world conducted by the modes of nature, it is insurmountable. You're not going to overcome it by any kind of material mechanism. He's giving here how you can cross over the stringent laws of material nature which is otherwise insurmountable. It is only by surrender to Krishna. This point cannot be emphasized enough. It is only by surrender to Krishna. There is no other way. You may make this plan, you may have this scheme, you may be intelligent, you may be powerful, but nothing is going to enable you to cross over the stringent laws of material nature other than surrender to Krishna. And Krishna will make that one of his final statements at the end of Bhagavad Gita, surrender. And so we can surrender. We raise our hands and we call out to Krishna in surrender. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, in verses 15 through 19, Krishna explains the surrendering process. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Yes, we have free will, and there'll always be a class of persons who will refuse to surrender to Krishna. He's mentioned them. Grossly foolish. In other words, they're too much absorbed in this bodily existence, enjoying the senses. Or the lowest among mankind. Yes, they may be so-called human beings, but they're more or less like two-legged animals. Then you have the scholars, the people who are very, very supposedly intelligent, but they're too materially absorbed. The material energy has stolen their intelligence. And then the ultimate, the atheistic demons who deny the very existence of God, and not only that, want to make sure that nobody else can worship God. We've had examples, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, Kamsa. They wanted to do away with any kind of God consciousness. They cannot tolerate that anyone else can worship God. So these four people, Krishna says, they don't surrender. O best among the bards, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and one searching for knowledge of the Absolute. So here are four kinds of people who begin to surrender. Why does someone begin to surrender? Because they're pious. They have some trace of saintliness. They come out of distress, or they come desiring wealth, or they're inquisitive, and then the best one, actually searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to one, and one is very dear to me. So he mentioned the four kinds. The one who is actually looking for knowledge of Krishna, the Absolute Truth, and is rendering devotional service, Krishna says he's the best. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but one who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, one is sure to attain me, who am the highest and most perfect goal. So Krishna said it doesn't matter, distressed, looking for wealth, inquisitive, and the one actually seeking the Absolute Truth. They're all great souls. They're all magnanimous. But what did he say? The one who is in knowledge of me, I consider to be like my own self. So we can get knowledge of Krishna simply by reading Bhagavad Gita. So if you read Bhagavad Gita every day, You're going to get knowledge of Krishna, and he's going to begin to consider you like his own self. And if you engage in this Krishna consciousness, ultimately you will attain Krishna. And what does Krishna say? I am the highest, the best. Again, he's confirming no truth superior to him. After many births and deaths, one who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Remember, we heard earlier in this chapter, out of many thousands among men, hardly one knows me in truth. He's picked on that point again. This is the real Mahatma. The real Mahatma is very rare to be found. And it may take many births and deaths. But you have to come to that point of surrender. Again, he's mentioning this theme, surrender to Krishna. Why does someone surrender to Krishna? Because you've come to the conclusion that Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is the absolute truth. As he said, no truth superior to me. When you are convinced of this, when you're absolutely convinced of this without any doubt, you surrender to Krishna. And then, out of ecstasy, you want to chant Krishna's name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, in verses 20 to 23, Krishna explains about demigod worship. Please listen very carefully. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. So, he has revealed why people worship demigods. Their intelligence has been stolen by their material desires. Then he says, I am in everyone's heart as the supersoul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make that person's faith steady so that he or she can devote oneself to that particular deity. Just see how nice Krishna is. Again, Krishna gives everyone free will. Krishna is in the heart of everyone. So Krishna says, oh, you want to worship a demigod? I'll help you. This is why Krishna is the greatest God of all gods. He's not jealous or envious. You want to worship someone other than him? He'll help you. Just see how nice is Krishna. This is one reason why I worship Krishna, because he's nice. He continues, endowed with such a faith, one endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtain one's desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Very interesting. The demigods are also not independent of Krishna. Krishna is also in the heart of that demigod. And when a particular person worships a demigod, Krishna in the heart of the demigod tells the demigod, fulfill that person's desires. Nothing is independent of Krishna. Everything is connected. It's only our lack of ability to see properly. But if you read Bhagavad Gita, you will see things clearly. You'll see how everything is connected to Krishna. Krishna made the person's faith steady, and Krishna told the demigod, fulfill that person's desires. That's why he said, after many births and deaths, one comes to the conclusion, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. Everything rests on Krishna. Krishna is everything. Now he has more to say about demigods. Men of small intelligence worship demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. So here, Krishna does not speak very highly of those who worship demigods. First he says, small intelligence. Because if they had bigger intelligence, they would worship him, the source. Then he says, you may worship a demigod and you will get the result of your worship, but look, the result, the fruit, is limited and temporary. And you'll not be satisfied by anything limited and temporary, because you, the soul, are eternal, and you are hankering for that which will give you unending pleasure. But out of foolishness, less intelligence, we're worshiping demigods for something limited and temporary. Even you get a material benediction, you can't have it forever. It's temporary. The richest man in the world, he may be rich for this lifetime, but depending on his karma, in his next lifetime, he might be a poor man. So any material acquisition, limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So here we see it's not all one. If you worship a particular demigod, that's where you're going to go. It's not that you worship a demigod and we all wind up in the same place. No. It's very clear here. You worship demigods, that's where you're going. And if you worship Krishna, that's where you're going. It's not all one. So we should be intelligent. We should not be of small intelligence. We should worship Krishna so that we reach Krishna. And reaching Krishna, you can do that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The rest of the chapter, verses 24 through 30, deals with the topic of who can and who cannot know God. Listen carefully. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So here's another class of unintelligent men who think that beyond the form of Krishna is the impersonal aspect. But here Krishna is saying, no, these are less intelligent. Krishna is manifest and unmanifest in this material world, but he's always existent in the spiritual world. It's just like we'll give the example of the sun. The sun is always in its orbit, but depending on our position, sometimes it is day, sometimes it is night. A less intelligent person will think, oh, it's nighttime, the sun has died. No, the sun is still there, and in due course of time, the sun will reappear. It's because of our situation. So the same way, Krishna is always existent in his personal form. It's just that sometimes he is manifest here and sometimes not manifest. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. So Krishna, for the foolish and unintelligent, Krishna cannot be seen. Even if they see Krishna, they cannot see him. You can see Krishna. We have a nice understanding of how to see Krishna. You can see Krishna when your heart is filled with love. Otherwise, you cannot see him. You may even see Krishna, but you will see him as an ordinary man. But when you have developed love for Krishna, then you will actually see him, and you'll see him always in your heart of hearts. And Krishna says, I am unborn. Even though he's appearing, he is unborn because he's eternally existent and he's infallible. He never makes a mistake and he never fails in his affection for his devotees. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. So here is why Krishna is supreme. He knows everything that's happened in the past, he knows what's going on now, and he knows everything that will happen in the future. But who knows Krishna? That is the question. He says, no one knows me. Because Krishna is supreme. We should understand this fact. He is explaining how he is the supreme, and we should simply accept. O scion of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. So this is how we come into this material world. We're born into delusion, and we're bewildered by dualities. And the only way to overcome this, he said, we heard in this chapter, this material energy is insurmountable, difficult. But if you surrender, so if we want to overcome delusion, desire, hate, you want to become free from bewilderment, you have to surrender to Krishna. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and are freed from the dualities of delusion, engage themselves in my service with determination. So if you want to be determined in Krishna's service, if you want to be determined in your surrender, then your sinful activities, you have to abandon them. What are those sinful activities? Eating of meat, fish, and eggs, sex outside of marriage, intoxication, and gambling. These are the 4 pillars of sinful life. You have to break down these pillars so that the roof of sinful life comes tumbling down. And you have to become free from the dualities. And he has been mentioning that throughout Bhagavad Gita. Engage in Krishna's service. Hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna, pray to Krishna, worship Krishna, become Krishna's friend, surrender to Krishna. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. The theme is consistent. Devotional service, serving Krishna with love. They are actually Brahman, meaning they are actually liberated, because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. We learned in chapters 4 and 5 about transcendental activities, which produce no good or bad material reaction. They're spiritual activities. So if you're intelligent, then you will take refuge in Krishna by serving him. And finally, in this chapter, those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. This reminds us of the final verse of chapter 2, where Krishna said that if you are situated in this Krishna consciousness, then you can pass the final examination. Human life is an examination, and the final examination is death, because our consciousness at the time of death will determine where we are going in our next life. This will be explained in the next chapter. But for now, we should understand that if we have knowledge of Krishna, if we are engaged in devotional service, Krishna consciousness, then we'll be able to be fixed in this knowledge, in this consciousness of Krishna, and pass the final examination of death. We will let Krishna speak more in the next chapter. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.